We are live and ready when you are.
Like to call. So I'd like to call the meeting, the Seldovia Planning Commission meeting for July 24th to order, and the time is 6:08. And if the clerk could do a roll call.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yeah,
okay, Commissioner Kroll is present. Commissioner Ryan,
Here. Here.
Commissioner Sweet,
Here.
Commissioner Forsberg is absent. Commissioner Blanchard. Here. All right, and we have 4 present. We have a quorum.
And we have a quorum. Okay, thank you. And then I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda.
I will move to approve the agenda.
And can I have a second?
I second it.
You want, okay.
Oh,
If the little, if you turn on the and the red light's on.
Yeah, it
and
was
if you
on.
just turn it on and leave it on, then you don't have to worry about it.
All right, then we have a motion.
And then if you can do a roll call.
Yep, so the motion is to approve the agenda. Commissioner Kroll,
Aye,
Commissioner Ryan,
yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
and Commissioner Blanchard. Yes. We have 4 in the affirmative.
Thank you. And then the next item is the approval of the minutes from the 19th of June, 2024. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I will move to approve the minutes.
Could I have a second?
second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kroll.
Nicole,
And then any discussion? So no discussion. I guess clerk could take the roll.
yeah, I'll just point out the minutes are in the lay down packet.
They're in a separate.
All right, the roll call vote. Commissioner Kroll,
Yeah,
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
and Commissioner Blanchard. Yes. Okay. We have 4 in the affirmative.
Thank you. And then the next item is public comments regarding items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments not on the agenda?
No, we do not have any.
Alrighty. So we'll go to item F, public hearings, prior notice, and this is the application to rezone 3 properties from commercial business district to waterfront commercial residential district. And what I'd like to do is I just like to set some expectations before I turn it over to the clerk to provide a briefing on the report. So I wanted to make sure that we're in this hearing, what we're doing is we're having democracy work in our community. And so we have different opinions about things, but what we're trying to do is get information that will be used to make a recommendation potentially to the city council. And the way today's proceeding will work is that the staff will provide a report, and that report will provide preliminary findings that address each of the decision criteria set out in our municipal code that the commission must use. So when we make decisions like this, we must follow a certain protocol, and those items are how we come to our decision. And we want to make sure that we have a fair and explainable decision. So that's why we're doing that. And there's quite a few things in the report, but one of the things that also is in the report is that there's the differences between the commercial business district and the waterfront commercial residential district, so that there's an explanation of where we are and where we're going to if that were to happen. What we will do is we will take public testimony, and we will take the people that signed up for Zoom in terms of the general public. They will go first, and then the people in the room here. And you would have signed up by 3:00 this afternoon to be on the Zoom list. And then for anybody wishing to testify in person, who has signed up, they will be called next. And that will be done in order on that list. We're being somewhat more formal here just because of the type of hearing this is. People will have 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes to testify, and the clerk will set a timer to let you know when your time is up. We're asking you to make your comments to be addressed to the commissioners, and to please provide information from your perspective that will assist the commission in making a recommendation. Please do not rebut other testimony or make personal remarks about others. And then once the general public comments have been made, then the applicants will have time to make their presentation. And then once that's done, then the commissioners will then discuss the testimony and determine if action will be taken today or at our next regular meeting on the 7th of August. So I will then turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on page 5 of the regular packet, you'll see a memo, and it has the background on the application. So on May 11th, we received an initial application to rezone the 3 properties listed from the commercial business district to the waterfront commercial residential district. And the initial application was discussed at our previous planning commission special meeting on June 19th. And there was a back and forth with the applicants, and supplemental information was requested. So you'll find that initial application on page 17 of your packet, 17 and 18. And then on page 21 is the supplemental information. And then 22 and 23 are the maps that were provided with the supplemental information. On July 1st, we mailed out the public notice that is listed on page 19 to all the property owners within 300 feet. And we did receive a few responses back, which are under public comments. The 3 petitioners are Jerry Stranick, Leslie Martin, and Chris Lethine. And there is an amendment procedure, which I lined out here, which provides for a process for amending that code. And if you look on page 6 of the packet, it finds out the criteria for the planning commission to consider and determine under chapter 1897. And then there's a little bit of Seldovia zoning history in there, that the original code of ordinances, and I believe Heidi can correct me if I'm wrong, that was incorporated with zoning map when the city was incorporated, but Seldovia took over zoning powers in 1998. And these 3 parcels have been a part of what used to be the commercial marine district, and now the commercial business district since that time. Correct. The code was updated in 2005, and I believe that district was expanded to include the other side of Main Street. And then there was an update in 2019 to the commercial marine to commercial business in 2020, which was a name change and a little bit of a purpose change, I think, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, just updating the purpose to not be as marine specific and more business specific.
Followed by that, there's a comparison of the difference between the commercial business district. They have different purposes, permitted uses, slight differences in setback, heights, parking, open space requirements. But the main difference is that the commercial business district requires a primary commercial use, while the waterfront commercial residential district provides a choice for residential, commercial, or mixed use with no requirement to have a commercial purpose. And the commercial business district's properties are considered commercial for the purpose of water and sewer rates. There's a further comparison chart that you'll find at the back, and it starts on page 12. And I highlighted just the waterfront commercial, residential, and commercial business columns, as well as on the land uses side, just it's highlighted the ones that have differences, but that's really the main difference. I'm not sure if there's any other that any manager Gagel can do. And then I did a quick analysis of the requirements for the petition with the evaluation criteria that I found. So the first is the need and justification of the proposed amendment. And the justification provided was that it meets the desired future land uses on page 33 of the 2014 comprehensive plan. And there is kind of a clean copy of that on page 25 of your packet. And then I'll note there, I also included page 50, which has the resources and a timeline for that. And it suggested that this would guide over kind of a slow implementation of that. And the second is whether the proposed amendment is in conformance with the comprehensive plan or will further the purposes of the plan. And the amendment does align those 3 parcels with the desired SLU district in that future preferred land uses plan. And the third is the effect of the proposed change on surrounding properties or the area. I put that the effect of the zoning amendment on surrounding properties within the general area would be to change the nature of that area from commercial to mixed use and or residential. That's kind of the crux of that issue. There is not really any undeveloped land in the area. So number 4 didn't really put much in there. If it would be reasonable to implement and enforce, and it would require a code ordinance change and mapping updates. And then current structures would also need to be reevaluated for the open space requirement for the waterfront commercial residential district. Although I think they can be considered non-conforming, but that would be one of the major differences in that. And then number 7, which is it in the best interest of the public? And it would possibly reduce the water and sewer revenue for those 3 properties listed. But other than that, I'm leaving it up to the commission to determine if they believe it's in the best interest of the public, considering the effect that it has of development permitted under that amendment. We received 7 public comments in the packet. 1 was from a petitioner on the application from Leslie Martin, and 6 others were from property owners in the vicinity. 3 neighboring property owners wrote in support of the rezoning, and 3 submitted comments opposing the rezoning. And so those comments are attached. And then on page 8, you'll find the proposed timeline that Chair Sweet put together for the rezoning process, just so everybody kind of knows what the intended tentative schedule might be. And the only recommendation that I can make as staff is that you consider that the application is complete and that you believe it has everything that was requested by the commission and staff to consider for this public hearing, which is why we scheduled it. And if anybody has specific questions, I'm happy to answer, and I'm sure Heidi would be happy to answer.
I have a question on the where it says permitted use versus conditional use.
Mhm.
What is the difference between those?
So permitted use means that that just you could use that without any conditions. Conditional use would require a permit and would require you to follow for conditional uses. And there are several things, like for instance, the bar would be a conditional use just because you would need a liquor license. So there are certain things that are conditional uses for that reason. Right.
Any other questions?
And Heidi, did you want to add?
So then, I guess what we can do is, go to the Zoom, the, person on the list for the Zoom, testimonies.
So the first person on the Zoom list that signed up was Vivian.
And you'll set a timer for 5 minutes.
And Heidi is going to be our timer
Okay.
today.
Thank you.
Vivian, go ahead and state your name for the record and
You bet. Vivian Rojas, 195 Lookout Alley, PO Box 226, Seldovia, Alaska 99663. Can you hear me okay?
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. In my letter, I would like to clarify, I'm sure you've all had a chance to read it. Based on the applicant's application relying on the comprehensive plan for the reasons to change zoning, I would like to state that I believe the development of the comprehensive plan in 2014 possibly incorrectly included the 3 lots as part of the slough district, as they are not on the slough but face the harbor. Secondly, when I reference in my letter, in my response, when I reference revenue potential or loss, I'm referring to sales tax, city sales tax loss or receiving. Also, the impact of allowing private homes on harbor waterfront is not consistent, I believe, with the current usage of the harbor area. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read my comments, but if we have the time, I'll read it if my voice will allow. Okay, I received notice of the application for zoning changes as I live within 300 feet radius of the proposed change. Let me state, as a resident, taxpayer, and concerned citizen of the city, I'm not in favor of the rezoning. The above stated lots for the current commercial business district to waterfront commercial residential district for the reasons I list. Historically, during and after urban renewal, the 3 lots, along with the waterfront, were dedicated to be part of the business district and were sold for the purpose of economic development in the harbor area of the commercial business district. These lots do not face the slough, but again, the harbor. Again, they were sold for the purpose of being business first and resident second, if the criteria of operating a business was upheld. Third bullet, to allow a rezoning takes away the business opportunity that currently exists for the economic future of Seldovia. Not only economic development, but revenue, again, what I referred to revenue stream as well, i.e. business revenue for city, with city taxes, what I'm referring to, and then the commercial utility fees. Third or fourth bullet, to consider removing 3 business opportunities that exist within this area and lose the potential economic advancement is contradictory to the current and future development of Seldovia. If rezoning is allowed, the parcels when sold would be sold as WCR with no restrictions, any financial loss to the city. The implication of this are obvious. The lots would be strictly a residence on the harbor waterfront. This is not the intent of the original sale. I believe the 3 lots are consistent with the concept of business traffic opportunity. The boardwalk is a tourist destination, which at this time include 2 operating businesses along the walk. This meets the strategy of the comprehensive plan of encouraging economic development. If we allow the change of zoning, we have the lots that are freely open for residential development. I don't think this is in the best interest of Seldovia's future. And in the criteria of, does the application meet the criteria of needs and justification of amendment? In my opinion, there is no need or justification other than the property owners do not want to be obligated to be in compliance with the current ordinances. The city's requirements to be a business are minimal, making it possible to explore various ideas. Second, proposed amendment is conformance with the comprehensive plan or further purposes of the plan. Again, in my opinion, one of the many purposes of the comprehensive plan is to encourage economic development. In this case, far outweigh the proposed amendment change. 3, effect of the proposed change on surrounding properties or areas. In my opinion, again, changing zoning puts limitations to the potential use from the public. 4 and 5, I did not respond to. 6, will it promote the present and future public health, safety, and welfare? Changing the zoning requirements will not change what exists currently. 7, is this in the best interest? In my opinion, changing the zoning code is not in the best interest of the public. It limits an area for business potential that can be enjoyed by residents and visitors alike. The loss of public access by becoming WCR, business where it's optional. This limits public services and facilities. The land use pattern for this area, being the boardwalk tourist business, is, if allowed to become residential as primary use, will be of a great loss to the community. In conclusion, I don't see this change being in the best interest of the community, but a release to the property owners for their commitment to build, from their commitment to build a business when they purchase the property. Sadly, I don't foresee the laws, if changed, to WCR taking the opportunity to be a business based on the current resistance. Thank you for the opportunity to give my input. Vivian Ross, thank you. If you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Okay. There are no questions at this time.
If we have no questions for Vivian, we will go to Kathleen, who's in the room. They're gonna come up to the table here.
And then I think you just want to make sure that the little red thing lit. There you go. Thank you.
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. To reiterate some of the things that Vivian said. Oh, Kathleen Gruber, do I have to do my address? Oh, yeah, resident of Seldovia. To reiterate some of the things that Vivian said, I really agree with her in the fact that this will not benefit the whole community. This will be a loss to the community. We have few enough business properties on Main Street that we are seeing businesses kind of move into what was more homes. And it's properly zoned, it's fine. However, if these buildings were open for businesses to open there, I think that they would be preferable. Waterfronts should belong to the entire community. And I know it was proposed many, many years ago to do a boardwalk. People who owned residences on the waterfront opposed it because though they were zoned to have a business in their place, they didn't have a business. And so they didn't want a public boardwalk in front of that house. And I'm sorry, but now we see our kids and we don't have a place where bikes can go. We don't have a place for tourists to walk. We were supposed to have a boardwalk from one end to the other. That would be a huge tourist draw. I think it not only hurts the taxpayers and the benefits of the community, it hurts the other businesses. Like, when I'm telling people, they come down to the gas station because they go to see Inside Beach and they grab something quick to eat. And then I tell them about the businesses on the other end and they're like, oh, there's only that one place to go. Like, oh, it's not worth it. If there was a bunch of businesses, we could have tourists from end to end, especially with the golf carts. And I've seen people who they are doing longer stays because people are opening the Airbnbs. So they have to be here for 3 days. And, we tell them, oh, you can go to Jack and Ava's, pizza at the bar. And they're like, okay, but, besides a hike, what else can we do? And we tell them maybe the few gift shops and things, but, it would bring, I think, by taking away business opportunities, it takes away from the revenue earned by all. If we want people to keep coming back, we don't want them to come here for 3 days and never return. And I have to just say a pet peeve of mine is, number one, this has been going on a long, long time where the property owners in that area have been trying to make that a residence. We don't need more McMansions on the waterfront. The waterfront should be open to the entire community. And I don't feel at this moment that it is. It was even commented when somebody bought a property there, they were like, oh, I can do a dummy business. I don't actually have to open a business there. That negatively affects everyone. What the gas station has done throughout the winter, having the vending machine place open throughout the winter, that has had a huge boost on the morale of the long-term residents here. Just having some place to go. I want to say, like, when Jack and Ava closes, the Linwood's open, but only a couple days during the winter. So just having some place where they can go get an Otter Pop is a huge boost. So I think by taking away businesses from our main street, it takes away from the community in a major, major way. Also, again, I think that they're saying that the properties around them aren't held to this standard. The properties around them aren't on the waterfront. They are on the other side of the street. The waterfront was always supposed to be for the entire community to have access. And so, yeah, there is a difference in the lots surrounding them. They're facing the harbor. The other people are facing the houses across the street. It's a very different view. And I would also say that the city is often asked by, quite frankly, wealthier community members, people who aren't here full time, to make massive changes to their codes, the way they do things, that I do not feel benefits the year-round residents. It's nice for them to have a really beautiful waterfront house for 2 months out of the year. However, that's not providing jobs to the people who live here year-round. And I know we have 2 business owners on this commission, which provide, a place to go, jobs for people in the community. You guys know how hard it is. I fully respect that. I'm not downplaying the difficulty of owning a business in Seldovia, but I think that our city does a huge job to support the business owners as much as they can. And I would also say that the loss of revenue and the loss of funds that the city has had to deal with through lawsuits because they tweaked things or they let things slide and they went against their codes. And then someone else came along, bought that property, and decided to go after the city over little things. That has vastly been a detriment to our city and the people who live here year round. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And do any of the commissioners have any questions? There are no questions.
We do not have anybody else that signed up online to testify, although Walt is on there, but we signed up. So I guess we want to go. He is. So would you like to go to commission discussion or to the applicant?
So. Or should we ask, or I guess from a process standpoint, what should we do in terms of making sure that if someone does want to speak?
We can ask.
Okay, so Walt, this is Randy. Walt Sonnen, if you if you wish to speak, do you want to just let me know? If you want to raise your hand.
Okay. Walt, go ahead if you can hear us and you'd like to speak. You could unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can go here. Go ahead and state your name for the record and you've got 5 minutes if you'd like to speak.
Okay, this is Walt Sonnen. I had intended to be there this evening, but just a couple of hours ago, I was told that I was exposed to COVID, so I chose not to come. So I would simply like to read my statement that is in your packet here, if that would be all right.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I would like to give my perspective and considerations on the proposal being put forward by the residents and owners of the 3 city lots just south of the city pavilion. These lots, along with most of the lots facing the Seldovia Harbor, became available for purchase at reasonable prices after urban renewal. However, ownership carried with it the obligation to operate a harbor-related business. This was clearly stated and understood for good reasons. among which were to prevent these properties from becoming unrestricted private properties. Over the years, we have seen compliance to the business aspect of these conditions somewhat spotty and lax. These three adjoining properties, while not contiguous with similar properties in the commercial business district, are every much a part of the district addressing the harbor. It is doubtful their compliance to the commercial business aspect of the zoning code would negatively impact the other businesses in town. One might consider the opportunities and advantages offered by the casual traffic proceeding through this section of Main Street on its way to the boardwalk, certainly a considerable portion of our daily visitors. While adjacent, these properties are clearly not along the slough. Should they be rezoned waterfront commercial residential, they would become the only properties in that category not addressing the slough, which are built on the shot rock of the urban renewal project. Each one of these properties originally had at least a tenuous connection to the harbor and was required as was required at the time. Lot 2 was a shop warehouse owned by Fred Alsace to support his 2 large commercial vessels. For a time, it also had a game room and more recently, an apartment at one end. Lot 3 had a first floor shop in support of a commercial seiner owned by Tuttle Intel, who had his residence on the second floor. The residence on Lot 4 was constructed as a boathouse for a boat which was used commercially for halibut fishing by Chris Lethane for a few years, and then later reconfigured as a residence. Time goes on and rules change. However, I believe it is in the long-term interest of the city to encourage vitality. This responsibility should not be compromised by the requests of these applicants to relieve themselves of their obligations. Thank you.
You keep pressing that thing. You don't have to.
Thank you, Walt. Are there any questions from the commission? There are no questions.
Okay. Jerry, if you can hear us, go ahead and state your name for the record. We've got 5 minutes as well.
Gary Stranick, box 173, Seldovia. I guess what people are missing is that that area under the comprehensive plan is called the Slough District, and it's included in the comprehensive plan. So that's a big problem. So I thought that as long as that's the way it is, we might as well do it legally. And what a nice separation. 2 of them have residents, I guess, but I've got 7. I think I pay taxes on 7 properties in Seldovia, and every one of them is related to a business, except for one. It was just raw land. But what you're missing the point here is it says it can be business also. And that's the point, is all of my properties are business. And I'm asking some of the people who testified here tonight, do you have a business in your property? What have you done to contribute to the business plan? I've done it in multiple areas. My wife's just a very dynamic person that likes to do all these things. And so we're doing it. And it's not a very profitable business. And I've had that property next to the pavilion for lease for years and years and years. And it's never been successful. The people come in, just can't make it work. But if you choose to, you can make a business happen, and it doesn't make any difference if you have a residence on it or not. You can make a business out of it, and you can't legislate successful commerce by making it just a commercial only. If you have to allow it to be, and it is allowed to be a business also. So I think that that's the part that you're missing here. If you look at it, I think the pavilion right next door to this is sort of an appropriate divider between what is commercial to the downtown, toward the downtown area, and what is residential. Because even across the street from the warehouse there, it extends more towards Main Street than that property does. In fact, the dividing is actually on the other side of the pavilion. But the pavilion is kind of the demarcation between what is residential and what is commercial. There's the testimony before about, urban renewal gave the tidelands to all the people on the waterfront. It doesn't make any difference where it was. If you wanted it, you got it. And that's pretty unusual. And in hindsight, I think that might not have been the right thing to do if you wanted to control the top part of it there. But I've been trying to get a boardwalk going on the inside of that for 40 years. And it always seems like one person always stands in the way. And so I'm pretty much given up on that. But I do think that, you're not changing anything. You're not taking away business opportunity, because anybody can have a business. And when a business will always take over residential, and if there's a need for a business and profitable, that's the bottom line. And it doesn't make any difference if somebody's, you can make a law that you can live upstairs if you have a business downstairs. That was, what some of the people did, and they claim their type of business, but that didn't really work out. But you can't legislate a business to be successful, and you're actually hurting the property values by doing that. So anything all along the slough there, all the way up on the other side of the bridge, and everything is all residential commercial. And there's been multiple businesses all the way up and down there, the coffee shops and everything, the bookstore, all that, so our on the boardwalk, every one of our properties there has a bent, or a part of it is toward the business aspect. So I think that this is not, I think we're contributing to the economy. I mean, we employ people to run our businesses and so forth, and at great expense, but it's helping the community, and we are providing jobs for a lot of people. So I just take that kindly, when you say you're not providing jobs. I task that on the other part. You have provided businesses.
Thank you, Jerry. That is the 5 minutes. Commissioner.
I'm the first one that's been challenged. That's great.
Did you want to wrap up one statement, Jerry?
No, I think that the comprehensive plan is the law and has to be abided by. There is no getting around it.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. And then Jerry, do you know if the other applicants, are they with you, or does any one of the other applicants have any?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
spent considerable amount of time doing the application, and I think that if you look at the application of what we submitted, I think it really goes to the heart of the whole thing. That it is commensurate with the comprehensive plan.
And I will point out that Leslie did put a written statement in, which is on page 38 of the packet.
Which page?
Page 38.
We'll just take a moment and let the commissioners take a look at that to refresh their minds, and we'll just
Yeah, so they're making some along. So. And we will be comprehensive.
Could we please not have discussion during this time? Have the commissioners had a chance to review that? So what I'd like to do next is, I'd like to ask the commissioners to, provide any comments that they would like to at this time. Did you want to make a comment?
Do you want to start?
Okay.
Sure.
So,
This is Commissioner Ryan. I was participated in the ad hoc group that met to wrestle through the zoning, not the commercial business district allowed practices, just looking at that whole situation. And attending those meetings, it was clear that it's difficult to run a business here in Seldovia, and they were wanting more leeway in what would be a business in order to make it possible to actually be a business here. And what I'm here as a fairly recent person to Seldovia. So the area in question has always been residential since I've been here. There has never been real activity there. And it's busy for an area that doesn't have a lot of business. For like, if I have to run in quick to see something at Susie's store, I can't find a place to park. So it's better if you're, on a bike or, walking. It's a real bottleneck. So I can see that there's an issue if you would have more business down that way, that dead end street. So, and the other point I would like to make is we've had 2 vacant business properties on Main Street that could be businesses ever since I've been here. One now became a coffee roaster, and there's a unoccupied home that's probably maybe unoccupied because it should be a business and they're not able to run a business. That's speculation. These are all in the commercial business district. So and now we have the one that is trying to have a business this year. We'll see how that goes. But there's kind of a track record of opportunities for businesses that aren't being met. And so I don't see that we are, by changing these 3 to residential, doesn't seem like it's taking away from all this demand for business, because we have these examples of vacant businesses. So being on that board really kind of influenced how I think about things, and the fact that I am fairly new to the community and haven't seen it ever as a business area down there. I really appreciate hearing all these comments about the past. It kind of has opened up my mind to what was here and the thought process for keeping or having this as part of the commercial business district. And I think the waterfront commercial district doesn't preclude businesses from happening, but I just really see a issue with having more businesses on that dead end street that doesn't have a good traffic situation at the moment. And that's about all I have.
thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Are there any other comments?
Sure. I have a couple comments. This is Commissioner Blanchard. I'm brand new to the committee, but I have lived in Seldovia for about 13 years now, and I've owned a business for 11. And just want to clarify, the Linwood is actually open 7 days a week in the winter. So it's open 7 days a week. It's been like that for the whole time I've owned it, except for when I got shut down for COVID. But so I know really well what it's like to have a business year round. And I do feel that it's very difficult in the winter. And then the summer months, for the businesses that are open in the summer, at least for me, I have to take revenue from the summer in order to be open during the winter. So actually, our tourism and the industry that provides business for us in the summer actually allows me to be open for the winter residents, which is, I don't think a lot of people understand that in town. But besides all that, I believe that forcing somebody to have a business is not necessarily the best way to go, because in order to have a business in this town, you really need to want to have it, and need to want to run it and operate it, because it takes a lot of work. I do believe that as far as the comment about only wealthy people would be able to afford those properties if they're residential or if they're waterfront commercial, I don't necessarily agree, because if you have a commercial business zoning, now you need a commercial loan in order to buy that property. And I've seen people be restricted by that. For example, when the trading post was for sale, I had friends who wanted to buy it, and actually with the intent of running a little business there. But they were unable to, because they needed to have this commercial loan. Whereas if the loan would have been more lenient, they would have been able to buy it. And so then I believe that it would make it so that people that have more money actually are the ones that are able to buy these commercial business properties, because they can afford to, and they can afford to apply for this commercial loan if they can't buy it cash. So that's been an observation from me, living here on Main Street for a long time. I believe that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Blanchard. Commissioner Kroll, do you have any comments?
Yeah, it's interesting hearing both sides of this, and I think we need more input from the public on this before we can really make a recommendation. But I like what I've heard so far.
Thank you, Commissioner Kroll. And I'll give some of my personal comments. So I'm just going to look at some of the decision criteria. So whether the proposed amendment is in conformance with the comprehensive plan or will further the purposes of the plan. So the 2014 comprehensive plan, which is the one that we're under currently, has the preferred use for having a SLU district. And I'm not sure why they use that particular term, but it's basically waterfront commercial residential. So that's what it says. And the other thing, and that's just what I'm just trying to do, is just say, this is something that is a fact. The other fact is that the goals and objectives in the comprehensive plan specifically focus on from airport Road to Iliamna. So we have a naming convention that's a little bit confusing potentially, but the intent of the people that put the plan together specifically focuses the business district on that part of Main Street that is from Airport to Iliamna. And that's just a fact. That's just a piece of information that is in the plan. In terms of, I guess in terms of the number 3, where it says the effect of the proposed change on the surrounding properties or the area. At this time, it appears that in the commercial business district in some cases, buildings have been there since it was commercial marine. It's basically been the way it looks and I don't know exactly how long that's been, but basically the appearance of that area of Seldovia seems to be fairly stable, regardless of the description or regardless of the district that it has been. In terms of implementing and enforcement, if there were to be a change, it doesn't, at least from the public comment, there would be some work to be done with that, because there is some difference between commercial business district and waterfront commercial, but principally it's whether there's a requirement for a business or not. And I think in this particular decision point, I think it is important, I think, to consider the amount of effort that it takes to have a business, because if you cannot break even in a business, then you can't afford to run that business. And so there are businesses that operate less than year round because that's what they can afford to do. And we have a few businesses that thankfully in our community, we have businesses that are operating year round. So, and I think Jerry's point about if there is a business that is profitable to have, someone will create it. And so whether we have a commercial business district or a waterfront commercial residential district, if somebody finds a way of operating a business that is viable, they will do that. And then I think for the public health, safety, and welfare, I think overall, it seems that area is fairly stable in terms of its appearance. I think the bottleneck is something, that's something perhaps to consider just in a general, whatever category of district there is, it may be something to consider to in terms of solving some of the flow in that area. The other piece of information, which it isn't specifically related to this, but it has to do with the potential for having a boardwalk. There is a possibility of a grant fund that the city is at least looking at. It's a possibility. I believe it's the is it Safe Streets? So and that funding could be in the millions of dollars. That's not to say that it would happen, but it's just something that there is a potential opportunity for that. And so that would give pedestrians a place to stay. I mean, it is something that would enhance our community. So potentially that may happen in the future. And I think the number 7, it's like the best interest for the public. I guess that's the place where you think about what is the best use. There are things like I can tell you things that are concrete, and then we're at this place with public interest, benefits, best use of the area. That is there's some squishiness to that. That's a values kind of observation or judgment. And so we have different views on that particular issue. So and I think so on the one hand, regardless of the zoning of that area, it seems like it really has, for the most part, been a residential type of area. And there have been some businesses. And then, as I understand our code, the requirements for having a business are not that high. I think in some way we may be having it's like maybe an assumption in our minds about a typical retail outlet in that area. But right now, in the way the economy is, somebody can't put a retail outlet in that area and make they aren't going to be able to operate it year round, and they aren't necessarily, and they so it's like it's different. Our economy's different. People might want to come and have experiences or go for hikes or do different things, but they may not want to buy a lot of tchotchkes or mementos or whatever. That type of business does not seem to be able to thrive in our current economy. So I'd be interested in, I've just kind of tried to lay out some of these things, but I'd be interested in any of the commissioners' feedback on those ideas, and also, how you see, going forward from this, from this discussion.
Well, this is Commissioner Ryan. I've got this idea. I don't know if this is opening a can of worms, but the boardwalk I see is really beneficial. And if we could do something to ensure that we could have a boardwalk connection all along the harbor, regardless of what these properties are zoned, I think that would be very highly beneficial for the communities. So perhaps that could be part of a change, a zoning change, that the boardwalk has to be included. Anyhow, this is a brainstorm, and I don't know how these things happen in the
But just to clarify, the boardwalk idea that Jerry has?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it seems like, okay, if these property owners want this change, but also we would like this boardwalk. So I would see that as something to work on. And otherwise, I really appreciate you going through step by step on these evaluation criteria and kind of laying it out. And I totally agree with you on that that number 7 is not what's factual. It is what we have as how you look at things. It's more of a value question. And I appreciate how you've laid it out. agree with what you said on there. So as moving forward, I heard Commissioner Kroll say that we need more opportunity for public testimony, but I think we provided that opportunity and we did get public testimony. I don't know. A lot of times things only get public attention when the shovel hits the ground, and that's when people get excited. It's not in these planning phases. Way of the world.
Yep. Commissioner Blanchard here. I agree with a lot of what you said. I really love that boardwalk idea. I don't believe that, again, I believe that if somebody really wants to run a business in those properties, they will, and that'll make it a successful business. It's not restricting them from doing it. Just don't believe forcing people to do things is the way to go. That's just my opinion. And then yes, number 7 is it's a gray area. And it is public opinion. And then I'm brand new, so this has been going on for how long? When was this first presented?
So the idea that the rezoning it ended up being a topic of conversation in the commercial business district subcommittee, and then there wasn't consensus on it in that subcommittee, and then actually the process for dealing with it is a rezoning application. So that's what the property owners have done, how they're using the process to do it so that it's formally requested and then reviewed. And then we as the planning commission are in an advisory capacity. So we will provide advice to the city council, assuming if we come to an agreement on a way to go forward. And so basically we could recommend for the rezoning to occur, or we could not recommend that, or to basically to stay the commercial business district. We can convey that to the city council, then they take it up, and then they have to notice a public hearing on their once they take it up.
Is that something that we can do tonight?
We can do that. So what I would ask you is we can make a decision tonight, or we can wait, have time to think about it and wait until August 7th. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I think it's just, I guess the question is are we ready to make a decision in terms of how we might judge this situation? And so I don't know. So I would just ask, Commissioner Ryan, what would your advice be in terms of, are we ready to make a decision or no?
It's 2 more weeks, I guess, to the August 7th meeting.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like we've heard what needs to be heard. And yeah.
One thing I wanted, one thing I just wanted to add to the conversation is that a comprehensive plan is a document that we are required to have, but it is like a waypoint. It is a plan. It is not something that is prescriptive. However, our ordinance says that we should follow the comprehensive plan. So I just wanted to be to just put that out there, that's how it works. It's a strategic document. It's a plan. The things that are put in there are determined by the amount of money that we might have as a city. There may be specific circumstances that help us do something or not. So it's just that's the frame of how it works. But we do as a city say that we want to follow that we would follow our comprehensive plan.
Do you believe that the rezoning would go against the comprehensive plan?
No, I mean, I do not, I would say that the comprehensive plan specifically states, a preferred use and I wasn't here when that was decided, but that's what it tells us. And the other thing that I said that was intentional is that they also said that the focus of the commercial business district was between airport, which is at the beginning of where, the entrance into where these properties are, but from airport or the pavilion there to Iliamna. So that's the specifics, and that's what people have said previously. So that's a fact. And we can, and we should include that in our consideration. Did you have any other thoughts on proceeding with a decision or no?
It sounds to me like everybody's ready except for potentially Commissioner Kroll. I'm not sure if he'd be ready to vote or not.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
if you wouldn't mind, could I add one more thing in about the comprehensive plan? I'm trying to find the Alaska statute right now, but it does, and as we've heard from applicants previously, the Alaska statute does state that we should, sorry, I'm grabbing that number right now. Okay, no, it's like that's the one I have open too. No. Yes, land use regulation, Alaska statute 2940 .040. In accordance with the comprehensive plan adopted under Alaska statute 20.40.030. In order to implement the plan, the assembly by ordinance shall adopt or amend provisions governing the use and occupancy of the land that may include, and then it lists a variety of topics, variances, zoning regulations, restricting the land, or the first one, zoning regulations restricting the use of land and improvements by geographic districts. We have had a discussion with the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Department about this, and that there isn't anything, even though it's listed in it is listed in the Alaska statutes, that in accordance with the comprehensive plan adopted, and in order to implement the plan, the assembly by ordinance shall adopt or amend provisions governing the use or occupancy. There isn't anything there's no penalties or anything specific to compelling a municipality to do that, other than it is in the statute. So I do want to point that out. It's in our code as well in Alaska statute that we should adopt, or we shall adopt or amend provisions governing the use and occupancy of a land in accordance with a comprehensive. So just as another point of order for ordinances and law.
So, and then just so from just a plain English kind of thing, it's like we need to have a comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan is tied to our municipal code, but the comprehensive plan is not prescriptive in itself. It is our ordinances that are prescriptive in terms of how we use our land.
Correct. So under land use regulation, it even states in it that it would be adopted by an ordinance. So any changes, while the plan is there and you should follow it, or in this case shall, but it's through ordinance. So anything comes back to that step of ordinance through the council. It's just we're in the amendment procedure stage, and it specifies in the code so very similarly that then it goes to council and it would be through ordinance. But I just wanted to point out that the land use regulation in Alaska statute does also tie back to the comprehensive plan.
Right. And it tells us it's a guide, it's not a requirement. It's a requirement to have a plan, and we implement it through our ordinances. But our ordinances also say that we should follow the plan. So that, I guess, from a decision-making aspect of this council, of this body, if we know that our comprehensive plan is saying something specific, and we should listen to that.
Yes, it does even state under A3, measures to further, and this is under land use regulation, measures to further goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. So it is clearly listed under land use regulation. I can pass this around if that's.
Yeah, I think it's more important for us to, like, from a practical standpoint, we're faced with making a decision. And so our comprehensive plan has said that there's a preferred use for this land. It's also focused our goals and objectives for a particular area of town. And then we have this request from people to rezone it to a preferred use. And so from a practical standpoint, we should listen to that because it is in alignment with what our comprehensive plan states. Right? I mean, because we have to have a way to make a decision. And if part of what this is saying is something specific, and we're being asked to align something with that, does that have a strong weight in our decision making? And should it? And so, and if our ordinance, because in our ordinance it says we should follow the plan, right? So I don't, so I mean, that's one of the criteria. And then the other is, there are different opinions about how land should be used. So then what is going to, if there's a conflict, which there is, I mean, there's different viewpoints, then if you're making a decision, then if we have specific guidance, then do we use that for making our decision? So I guess, because I guess from the standpoint of if our code tells us to do something, then is that what we're bound by? I mean, it's a question. I think it's because I think it's really important, because if we're making a decision, and one of the things that we're saying is that we're following a process and we're using criteria in our decisions, then if we have specific criteria and they are also in our ordinances, then does that have does that prevail? Because the situation is such where there is a difference, and so we have to come to a conclusion. And so if this is what our strategic document and our municipal code says we should follow the comprehensive plan, then is that what we're bound to do?
If you're looking for a staff opinion, I would say that it's and it specifies in the handbook that when the Alaska Planning Commission handbook, that when it's in the best, and here, let me find the exact topic here. It states for land use regulations. In accordance with the comprehensive plan adopted under Alaska statute, as we just read, and then there was another section, I'm just looking for it real quick here, that talks about land use regulation changes. Okay, zoning map revisions in the Alaska Planning Commission handbook of October 2021. The commission typically revises the official zoning map to bring it up to date when a comprehensive plan is updated. From time to time, the commission will review rezone requests that are smaller in size or out of character with the zoning in the neighborhood and may be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, often thought of as spot zoning. A small rezone that has clear public purpose and benefits and is consistent with the comprehensive plan has a good chance of standing. A similar rezone that clearly benefits the property owner but is not well related to a public benefit or purpose and is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan has a good chance of failing. So if you were to interpret those last two sentences, I would say while the comprehensive plan has good weight, so does a public benefit. And that's the question this evening is what is in the best interest of the public? And taking into consideration, is it consistent with the comprehensive plan?
So, I mean, we're back to, there's a conflict between how people view the public interest and how and the comprehensive plan. In this case, if I understand correctly, this isn't spot zoning because it's the adjacent, the request to rezone to waterfront commercial is adjacent to a district that's already waterfront commercial, so it wouldn't be a spot zoning.
And that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan.
And it's so I guess it's not spot zoning, or it's not a spot zoning and it is consistent. So their request is not a spot zoning and it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Well, can I make a motion that we would recommend a city council to go ahead with the rezoning, knowing that city council is then another level of
Right.
public review, right? That's, it kind of seems like that's where we're headed going through these steps. And other than the disagreement between what is considered in the best public interest. That's why I think having the boardwalk would then elevate the best public interest. If there was a way to include that in my motion, I would love to do that, but I don't know if that's possible.
So why don't we do this? So I heard Commissioner Ryan, you made a motion to make a recommendation to provide a recommendation to the city council that the rezoning request be granted. And I'd like to get a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, and Commissioner Blanchard provided a second. And then I go back to any discussion and see, we have to, sorry, we need to vote on the motion first, and no, we can discuss it now. So I have a question on Commissioner Ryan made the motion and also identified the potential for including the boardwalk as part of that motion. And I would ask for advice on how that should be treated.
So you could make that as an amendment motion, and if it's that you're looking for more information on it, you could ask staff to refer to legal for more, validity or potential for that request.
Okay, so that could be worked on to find out if that's an appropriate amendment to that, but in the meantime, we can go ahead with the main motion.
Right, and then if you wanted to do the second motion to work on that, the amendment, and then have a discussion on it if you want, vote on
Okay.
it, and then go back to the main motion with the amendment included. It's
So at this point, we can ask if anyone has an amendment to the motion, and then that can carry with it, and then at the same, and then the city can evaluate that, whether it's appropriate or not, and then whether it is or isn't, then it can go to the council or not, depending on whether it's appropriate.
correct.
Okay. So, Commissioner Ryan, would you like to make an amendment?
Oh, yes. I guess that's what I'm doing, making an amendment that we find out if including easement for a public boardwalk could be kind of the way we provide public benefit from this rezoning request.
And could I have a second to the amendment?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, and then now do we vote on the entire amendment, entire motion?
It would be any further discussion on the amendment, then a vote on the discussion, and then you go back to the main amendment.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other further discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, that's, I'm kind of with the long-term residents that, on one hand, we shouldn't force, businesses into existence, because that doesn't work, but, we need some way to encourage business development. But it is what they agreed to when they bought the property, and that's another point that they brought up there. So I think we should consider that, and, that, we stick with the plan and, the intention to have a variety of businesses for people to go to when they visit Seldovia, to encourage tourism, to help the public, and to provide opportunities for work and whatnot. I think it would, I mean, we all know we need more business in the town, and if they need help, they can talk to myself or anyone, to, either, continue or set up a business. That's what I had anyway.
Thank you, Commissioner Kroll. So now we will vote on the amendment.
If you could restate that amendment.
So the amendment is to determine if it's appropriate to add a requirement for a boardwalk easement as part of the rezoning.
Ready to vote?
Yes. So if you could call the roll.
Okay, so we'll be voting on the amendment to the motion. Commissioner Kroll,
Yeah, I think making it contingent on the boardwalk is a good idea.
Okay, so Commissioner Curl, are you voting yes for the amendment?
Yeah, for the amendment.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes,
and Commissioner Blanchard?
Yes.
That's 4 yes.
and then now we go back to the main
Yep, so-
motion, which is to approve, to provide a recommendation for the approval of rezoning of the 3 lots. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I just want, not to overstep, but just a point of order, thinking through the steps, if you guys wanted to make a motion to add your findings here, or you can close out this motion and then make a motion afterwards to attach findings.
Is it simpler to do it all together, or, I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, well, I guess we'll just focus on this part and then we'll add the findings as a separate motion. So, I guess so at this point, what we're doing is the amendment is added to the main motion, so we are moving to recommend. The motion is whether to recommend the rezoning, and so it's that plus the amendment to on the boardwalk.
Yeah, so the main motion on the table would be that the commission provide a recommendation to the city council that the rezoning request be granted and determine if it's appropriate to add a requirement for a boardwalk easement as part of the rezoning.
And then if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yeah, let's see, can I propose another amendment?
I think that would be out of order at this point.
Okay,
Right now, we have a motion on the floor and if the clerk could restate the motion.
sure, the motion on the floor is that the commission provide a recommendation to the city council that the rezoning request be granted and determine if it's appropriate to add a requirement for a boardwalk easement as part of the rezoning.
And Commissioner Kroll, did you hear that?
yeah, okay, I'm not in favor of that.
So Commissioner Cole, that would be a no vote.
Oh,
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
and Commissioner Blanchard.
Yes.
Yes, so for the main motion, that would be 3 yes and 1 no. Yeah, motion passes.
So the motion passes. And then Commissioner Kroll, you had a motion that you wanted to provide.
yeah, I wanted to make sure that the city council got the letters from the public with that. I don't know if they get those or not.
They
Yeah, the requirement is that all public comments move forward with that to the council.
Yeah, okay, so it's not necessary. All right, thank
And
you.
then, okay, thank you. And then the next motion would be that is needed is to attach the findings to the recommendation. So if somebody could provide a motion to that effect.
I will move to provide, to add the findings to the motion about rezoning.
And could I have a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Kroll. And then if you could take a roll.
Can I get some clarification as to which findings you want to add? From the staff report or?
So, so will we, so I guess what I would ask is if we would have, we have the findings from the staff report, we have sorry, we have the findings from the staff report and we have the public comment, which would be provided, that has the written public comment that has been provided. And then would the information that was provided in this meeting also be part, I guess these are unapproved, they would be unapproved minutes that would go along with that. So should we amend our motion to having the findings and the unapproved minutes added to that transmittal to the city council?
The minutes will be transmitted via coach. That doesn't need to be in the motion. I'm just wanted to clarify if the findings are the ones that are on page 3 in that staff report, or, and that is what's agreed to, if there is different findings that you want to
I guess
that as justification for the decision.
I don't know the answer to that. So it, from the commissioner's perspective, from your reading of the findings that are on the staff report, is there anything in addition to that that you think would be important to add, or are they able to stand on their own?
This is Commissioner Ryan, and it sounds like to me that what was provided by staff are a good set of findings, but in addition, all what we've heard tonight are findings. So isn't all of it considered? Or do we need to summarize it more? Because the public comments provided, the letters have findings in them. And all of our discussions.
So would it be helpful to go through that list of 1 through 7 and see what's on the report and what people might want to add to that?
Okay, so, and just so the commissioners are aware, we do have one bit of business after we conclude this particular, we have the replat that we need to do, which shouldn't take too long, but that is our last item of business. So from the standpoint of need and so I'm just going to go through the list of criteria, and if there's any, if the commissioners have any additions, if you could just let us know. So the first one is the need and justification of the proposed amendment. Is there anything beyond what's stated there that needs to be added? Okay, I don't hear any additions. The number 2 is whether the proposed amendment is in conformance with the comprehensive plan or will further the purposes of the plan. Is there anything that, in addition to what's stated there, that needs to be added?
So what's written is that the proposed amendment would align the three parcels with the desired SLU district and the future preferred land uses within the 2014 comprehensive plan.
No additions? Number 3 is the effect of the proposed change on the surrounding properties or the area. The effect of the zoning amendment on surrounding properties within the general area would be to change the nature of the area from commercial to mixed use and or residential. I guess I have a question because isn't the commercial business district mixed use also?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be residential. So it would be mixed use or commercial. So we could,
But mixed use just means you have multiple uses, right? So in the commercial business district, you can have residential, you can have business, you can have, so you actually have mixed use in both those
But you can't have
categories.
residential without commercial.
Excuse me?
But you can't have residential without commercial.
Right, but you still, it's still a mixed use district, right? I guess, and I don't want to quibble over that, but it.
so would it be easier to amend it to something like would be to change the nature of the area from commercial or mixed use to mixed use or residential?
I guess so, because waterfront commercial residential is mixed use, so it's, you're retaining mixed use in both in. And does anybody have any other comments on that item?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Ryan. When I read this. Okay, the effect of the zoning amendment on surrounding properties in the general area would be to change the nature of the area. When I read that, it's like the nature of the area right now is not what it's zoned. The nature of the area is residential, so we're kind of changing the zoning to match what it has become. But, so we're not changing the nature, we're changing the zoning, right?
Aligning with the nature,
What's that?
aligning with the nature.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
So what would you like to restate that as? Would be to change the zoning of the area? Or to align? Is there?
To change the zoning of the area to align.
With how it's being used.
Or if you just, where it says within the general area would be to align the nature of. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Allison.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
If you want to take a stab at a completely new statement, I will not be offended. There are others that have been provided in public.
Okay,
comment.
the effect of the zoning amendment on surrounding properties within the general area would be to align the properties. Would be to align the zoning with the current use of the properties.
Okay. So just to restate that, the effect of the zoning amendment on surrounding properties within the general area would be to align the zoning with the current use of the properties. And
And then the number 4, it has to do with undeveloped land, and there is no undeveloped land in the area, so I don't, is there any comment on that one? And then number 5, will it be reasonable to implement and enforce? And then the answer is yes, it will require a code ordinance change and mapping updates. Current structures would need to be evaluated for open space requirements of waterfront commercial residential. Any additions to that one? And then number 6, will it promote the present and future public health, safety, and welfare?
And on this one, I don't know that that I stated this one well, because there doesn't seem to be, from my review, any impact on it, but to promote it is a different question.
So basically it's neutral, or
We can leave it like that, but if you feel like
Okay.
there's a finding that this application would promote it rather than just have no impact or be neutral. Would you like to just leave it as is?
Okay. And then on the item number 7.
This is the one I kind of wanted.
Any
Could there,
comments?
this is Commissioner Ryan, could there be a finding that the hearing provided an array of opinions on this matter? And, see the notes of the meeting to get more on that.
Right, because
So it would be that the hearing provided an array of opinions.
pro and con, right? So-
Mhm. So the hearing provided an array of opinions for and against the best interest of the public. Does that reflect?
So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure where this fits in, but I think the idea that you can't legislate somebody having a business is just an important point of information, just because it's one of the things that came up frequently, and just I'm not sure if it fits in here, but since it's kind of the it's the place where there is difference of opinion that that's a factor that was important to some of the people that provided feedback.
How about looking, because we do legislate that business zone, so maybe it's that
It's
there's an of that needs to be consideration and evaluation for how much business is.
right. You can't legislate. We don't legislate a year-round business. We don't legislate the type of business, but
We do maintain that requirement for other businesses
But-
within
and I guess that
that zone.
the result of that is that people have, I guess somebody called it a dummy business. But so there's compliance in one sense, but it's not necessarily providing a benefit to the community. So yeah,
That just maybe as an advisory body and governing bodies and members of the public, that there's that people are cognizant of the extent of regulation when it concerns businesses and what is effective and impacts the community, maybe? I don't know, just throwing that out there.
yeah, because the intent of our regulations has not created businesses, more like there aren't a bunch of retail businesses operating, even though we have code to say that, that we want people to operate a business. And I don't know if it's just, it's fine. I'll just kind of withdraw that because I don't. Yeah, that's fine. Just because I think it's another complication. So I'll just withdraw it. Is there any other comments in terms of the findings? So I guess we're satisfied with the findings as they are. And then all the other, the unapproved notes and the findings in the letters, the information in the letters would go along with the packet. So in terms of our motion, we would want the findings, the letters,
And it would be a written recommendation. So that would be provided.
okay, so we would have a written recommendation, the findings, and the unapproved notes.
The unapproved minutes and all of the backup documentation that states in code.
Okay, so
It'll all move forward with it. Would you like to include also the Alaska statute 2940.040 land use regulation and?
no,
No,
I don't, yeah, that's fine. I'm just more, just what, so written recommendations, findings, unapproved minutes. And then all documentation from public hearing. And submitted testimony.
And just for clarification, for number 7, would you like to add the comments that were in there from the staff report as well as what you had in there, or leave that out?
I think it has to go. It's
Yeah,
It'll all go, yeah.
Yeah, so is there a way to just say that, is it the packet, is this basically, because if we're submitting the entire packet to the commission, to the council, along with the written recommendation, would that serve to, that way we could just say that without enumerating everything?
I mean, it's in code what we have to submit.
Okay, so the written recommendation, the findings, the unapproved minutes and all documentation from the hearing and this, which includes the submitted testimony. So if I could have a motion to that effect.
So, yeah, we currently have a motion
Oh,
from Commissioner
sorry.
Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Kroll to add the findings to the motion. Do you
Okay,
want to?
so I guess, so then as an individual, I can just add another motion that says, so that means it's the unapproved minutes, all documents from the hearing and the submitted testimony. Is that?
Yep. The motion would be to add the findings to the motion, the written report and all documents from the submitted testimony.
And that meets the requirements of the what we're to do in terms of the code.
Mhm.
Okay. So if we can, I guess, okay, so now we have all the additions to the motion, and so now do we just,
Yeah, we would vote on the motion to add the motion on the table, which is to add the finding to the motion, the written report and the documents from the submitted testimony.
okay, so if we can vote on, I guess if you can just call the roll on that. So do I need to have somebody move that, or can we vote on it?
Well, motions on the table would be what it is, and we can just vote on it at this point.
Okay, so right now we have everything added to the motion and we're okay there, and we can just vote on the motion. On the main motion.
Yeah, we have the motion, the main motion is from Commissioner Ryan, and the second is Commissioner Kroll. Yeah.
And all of this is part of the findings, is that correct? So we're proper in terms of everything that, and we're meeting the requirements of the regulation of the code. So we are now able to vote on the motion.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes,
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
and Commissioner Blanchard.
Yes.
So the motion passes 4 yes.
And so I'll go ahead and the next item on our agenda is consideration of site plans. I don't believe we have any to do that. And so that takes us to item H, which is commission business. It's the Frank Raby 1971 edition track M 2024 preliminary plat that were asked by the Kenai Peninsula Borough to provide feedback, and I'll turn it back over to the staff. And you have the information is on the laydown, is that correct?
That is correct. And the map is included in the laydown, but I did print out some larger ones that are easier to see, so I can pass those out.
Thank you.
So on page 5 of the laydown, we'll see a report for this preliminary plat review. And this was submitted to us, although it is outside of the city limits, it does contain a city maintained easement within it. And it does abut city property. So if you look at the map, the purpose of the replat is to legally separate the two areas of that parcel that are separated by, referred to as Posh Community Drive, and also to dedicate Posh Community Drive as a 60-foot right of way. I've attached the original plat from 1972, which has that outside beach road in it. And we currently maintain that right of way, the parcel between that and Jack Lock Bay Road. That easement is on private property. And so it is, I believe, a 20-foot public easement. Yeah. It's a 20-foot public easement that goes from Jack Lock Road through to this parcel. And so that would dedicate the piece on this parcel, and that's the road leading to outside beach. So the surveyor did submit that, and the borough asked us to consider it. And so the findings that I found were on the first page of that menu of that memo. And the city of Seldovia owns an adjacent property and currently maintains the Posh Community Drive right of way. It's an existing road as noted in the attached plat. And dividing that tract into M1 and M2 would preserve the access to the city's own public land. And the preliminary as-built does list existing structures within the 20-foot setback from the right of way and the 10-foot utility easement. That's just something to note that will be discussed on the borough level. What kind of utility easements? When talking to the surveyor, they said that generally the utility easements, they usually will HEA and other people will request a 30-foot utility easement on that. But that's just to note for review. And there was no objections from city staff or department. And there were no objections submitted from the public. And so I've attached just an aerial imagery of the parcel on page 3, so everybody can get a good idea of what we're talking about. The preliminary replat submitted and the as-built and the original plat from 1972 from the Seldovia Recording District. And the intended purpose for it, according to our surveyor, was to separate off that and potentially sell the northeast parcel at some point in time. So anybody have any questions?
On the 20-foot setback, is there anything, would there, so you said that there was normally a 30-foot setback. Is that something that would potentially impact the city in the future, or that's just unknown?
No, it's just something to note on the plat that the 20-foot is what is the default in the Kenai Peninsula Borough when subdividing.
Okay.
But often, it's just to note that they will ask for a further easement for the utilities of 30 feet.
Thank you. So you're recommending that the commission make a motion of approval or non-objection and attach the relevant findings for this replat to be submitted through the Kenai Peninsula Borough?
Yeah, and the comments and minutes would be sent to the surveyor who would then submit them with their application. I appreciate the borough giving us the opportunity to review it, even though it's not within city limits, because it does affect city property and the right of way that the city does maintain.
I have a question. This wouldn't change the easement though, right?
It would potentially change it from an easement to a dedicated right of way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it wouldn't remove the easement or access to it. You
If
would-
anything, it would make it more permanent, not just an easement, it would make it a permanent right of way.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
And do you have anything to add on that?
So if we, make that motion, that will be that will be the thing that will help us, provide them, information back, and that will help us from the standpoint of the city. That's the best approach. Okay, so if, I could, have a motion to the effect of the,
Oh, yes. City Manager Gagle's reminding us about public comments. But we lost our public. You do have to call for public comment, I guess.
okay, and so do we do that, prior to the motion then?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any public comment?
There's no public comment at this time.
Okay, and then we can make a motion, and then we can ask for the commissioners if they have any discussion. So could I have a motion, for approval or non-objection, to include the, relevant findings for this replat to be submitted to the Kenai Peninsula Borough?
I say so moved.
You can.
Okay. I do say that.
And can I have a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion?
For clarification, did you want it to be approval or non-objection? Or both?
I guess is what would be the appropriate, is it really? We're not approving, we're basically, we have no
Not
objection.
Yeah.
So do we need to, amend the motion? Okay, so a friendly amendment and we can move on, or a friendly amendment. So the motion, the friendly amendment is to move that the non-objection to the attached relevant findings for this replat to be submitted to the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And then we can have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yeah,
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
and Commissioner Blanchard.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 4 yes.
Thank you. And then, are there any additional staff reports?
Not at this time, no.
And then there's an, informational items not requiring action, but there's a statement here that says the regular election for the city of Seldovia will be held October 1st, 2024. The candidate filing period opens August 1st, 2024 and closes August 15th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m.
Just in case anyone was interested.
And then, item K, comments of the public.
We have any public at the moment.
Okay. Any comments from the commission?
Commissioner Ryan, I'd like to thank you, our chair, for running this meeting and keeping us going and following process. And I thought it was well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
The next meeting will be on August 7th, 2024. and a motion to adjourn.
Yes, if we could get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
There's no objection. We are
We are adjourned.
Should go.
Good night, Henry.
Good night, Henry.